Hello children, as you all know that we have started with the chapter force in physics and we are going pretty good. So remember children that in order to reinforce certain points, I have recorded this video. I'm recording this video to reinforce certain concepts. Okay, now let us look at what I want to start with. I told you that when you apply force, which is an external physical cause on a body, freely moving body, you apply a force on a freely moving body, what is going to happen? It is going to show a translational motion. On the other hand, when you apply a force on a pivoted body, which is not free to move, it is fixed at a point, right? What is going to happen? It is going to show rotational motion. It is going to show rotational motion. Okay, so remember that if I'll just show it to you children. See, I've taken a wooden block, right? Here is a wooden block. And you know it's free to move. It's not pivoted. I am going to apply force. What can you see children? What can you see? It is showing a motion which is translational. On the other hand, when I take the same block and I pivot it with the help of my finger, and this time when I am going to apply a force at the corner, what is happening children? Can you see what is happening to it? It is going to show a rotational motion. So I hope it's clear that when the body is not pivoted, it is showing translational motion as a result of the force applied. And when the body is pivoted, it is going to show rotational motion as a result of the force applied. So what do we gather from here? We gather from here that force is an external physical cause which when applied on a body can bring about a change in the state of rest or uniform motion of the body. It can also bring about an increase or decrease in the speed of the body. It can change the direction of motion of the body, or it could even change the shape of the body, but the body should be non-rigid. And when force is applied on the object, it could be a free object, it could be a pivoted object. If it is pivoted, it will show rotational motion, and when it is free, it will show translational motion. Okay. Now here I have represented it with the diagram. I have drawn a pivoted body which is pivoted at point O, and you can see that I have shown this arrow. The force is being applied here. This is the line of action of the force. I have shown with a dotted line. This is the line of action of force, right? And this is the pivot point. When I apply a force at this point, you can see the body will show a rotational motion. Definitely it is going to rotate, right? Now when it will show a rotational motion, it is said to have moment of force or torque or turning effect of force, and it is denoted by this symbol. It is called tau. And if I want to calculate the turning effect of force, I will use the formula F into D, where F stands for the force applied, the magnitude of the force applied. It could be 5 newtons, 10 newtons, 2 newtons into the perpendicular distance. Now let's see what is the perpendicular distance. Children, see this. It is the perpendicular distance which I have denoted by D. It is the perpendicular distance of line of action of force from the pivot point. Okay, and the formula is tau is F into D. Let's look at the units very quickly. The unit of force is Newton, the unit of distance is meter. So the SI unit of turning effect of force is Newton meter, and the CGS unit will be Dian centimeter. And of course, there is a relation between these two units. Let's see that also. 1 Newton meter is 1 Newton into 1 meter. We all know 1 Newton is 10 to power 5 Dians. 1 meter is 100 centimeters. When you add up the zeros, it is 1 Newton meter is 10 to power 7 Dian centimeter. This is the relation between the SI and the CGS unit of tau or moment of force. These are the absolute units, children. Absolute units. Absolute SI unit, absolute CGS unit. Let's look at the gravitational units. The gravitational SI unit is kgf meter, and the gravitational CGS unit is gf centimeter. Let's see what's the relation between the two. 1 kgf is 1000 gf and 1 meter is 100 centimeters. When I count the zeros, it is 1 kgf meter is 10 to power 5 gf centimeter. Okay, these are the gravitational units. These are the absolute units. Then we should also know that 1 kgf meter is 9.8 Newton meter. And 1 GF centimeter is 980 Dian centimeter. Okay. Now, when you apply a force on a pivoted body, I told you it brings about rotation. Now, let's see what type of rotation can you bring about. Depending upon the point at which the force is applied. You can see the force when applied at this particular point, the body will move from left to right. Okay, and when the body is moving from left to right, it is called anti-clockwise moment of force. And when you apply a force at this particular point, the body is now going to rotate in clockwise direction from right to left. So left to right is anti-clockwise, right to left is clockwise. And one more thing I want to tell you over here, that we have some sign conventions for both. You know, it's just a sign convention. For there is no reason behind it. Okay, in physics, the anti-clockwise moment of force is considered to be positive and the clockwise moment of force is considered to be negative. Okay, in order to make you understand about the turning effect of force, I would like to show you something. Children, here is a door, right? Now you can see that this is the handle of the door and here is the hinge. Can you see? This is the hinge of the door. This is the pivot point. Okay, this is the pivot point and this is the force. So this is the line of the action of when I am applying a force on the handle. You can see when I'm applying a force on this handle, it is showing a turning effect. The door is moving and showing a turning effect, right? Opening and closing of a door is an example of turning effect. Now this is the line of action of force and this is the perpendicular distance of the line of action of force from the pivot point, which is the hinge. Okay, now greater the perpendicular distance, better is the turning effect. If I remove the handle from here and I fix it somewhere in the center, the perpendicular distance will reduce and therefore the turning effect will be weaker. Then when I remove the handle from here and fix it at the hinge, suppose I put the handle on the hinge, how much ever force I'll apply, there will be zero turning effect. Why zero? Because the perpendicular distance between the line of action of force and the pivot point will be zero. So therefore the turning effect of force will be zero. Is that clear to you, children? Okay, I hope it's clear. Now, I have explained enough about the turning effect. Now I would like to teach you one more thing today, and that is couple. Actually, and we'll also have a comparison. Okay, just let's start now. You can see I've taken this lock and key, I've taken this bottle with a lid, and I have taken one toy which I had at home. This is the charkha. Now you can see, why am I taking this example? I'm taking this example because I want to tell you that when I move the key in the lock, you know, I use a pair of force. I use a pair of force to rotate it, you know. And this pair of forces bring about a turning effect, and that refers to couple. Similarly, when I want to open the lid of this box, I place one finger at this end, the other at this, and I turn it. I'm using a pair of forces to move this lid, to turn this lid like this, either this way or that way. And this also is called a couple. Okay, similarly, look at this charkha, children. It's very interesting. When you see this, what am I doing? One minute, I'll just show it to you. I am applying a force on this and I'm going to, you know, it shows a turning effect. Can you see here? Okay, it is turning slowly. Now, how is it turning? Because I'm using two forces, a pair of forces at the two ends to turn this, and that brings about that constitutes a couple. Even the opening and closing of a tap, you know, that is also an example of couple. Now, let's look at what is couple and what is the difference between moment of force and couple. See, I've already explained you turning effect of force. This was the thing which I explained you. And this is what is couple. It is two forces, two equal, opposite. Why opposite? You can see it is pointing in this direction. It is pointing in the downward direction. So these are two equal, opposite, parallel forces. Can you see? See, I put a pen here and this is my hand for the other one. These are parallel forces. So two equal, opposite, parallel forces acting along different lines of action. For this force, the line of action is here, and for this force, the line of action is here. So they are acting along different lines of action. So two equal, opposite, parallel forces acting along different lines of action constitute a couple. Both couple and turning and moment of force or torque produce a turning effect. See, this also produces a turning effect. This also produces a turning effect. But what's the difference between the two is that it is a single force and this is a pair of forces. And they complement each other. You can see this force and this force, no doubt they are opposite, but they are complementing and rotating the body in clockwise direction. And similarly, these two forces are rotating, complementing and rotating the body in anti-clockwise direction. Okay. And I also want to tell you one thing, that they have separate formulae. The formula for moment of force or torque is F into D. Okay, while moment of couple is either force into total perpendicular distance. I'll show you how I got this formula. I'll tell you. Okay, but the SI unit and CGS unit of both is same. Newton meter, Dian centimeter. Okay, now let's quickly look at how did I get this formula for moment of couple. Let us suppose that I have this particular rod over here which is pivoted at point O. I have two ends of the rod A and B, and the total distance between A and B is D. Let us suppose that. Now because O is in the center, so naturally OA will be D by 2 and OB will be D by 2. If I divide this rod into two parts, here I put my pen over here and divide into two parts, then if I say that this is a single force, so I say moment of force at end A. Moment of force at end A is F into the perpendicular distance D by 2. Similarly, moment of force at end B will be force F into D by 2. But when I combine both the forces, they form the total moment of couple. Now they will be called couple because they are pair of forces. First it was a single force, so I called it moment of force. But now they are pair of forces, so I called it total moment of couple. I add both. I get F into D by 2 plus F into D by 2. Now when I combine D by 2 and D by 2, I get D. And why did I take F common? Because they are equal forces. So I take F common. So what is my formula now, children? Either force, because one out of the two force, into the total perpendicular distance between the 2 points. And what is the total perpendicular distance called? It is also called couple arm. So remember, the total perpendicular distance is also called couple arm. I hope couple and moment of force is clear. Now I move to static equilibrium. Children, static equilibrium is a very simple topic. I mean static and dynamic. There are two types of equilibrium, children. I have taken two examples of both and then I'll make you understand. Now see, first example is I take the example of a book which is lying on the table. Let us suppose that this is the book which is lying on the table. Now you can see that the book is in static equilibrium. Why is it in static equilibrium? See, when I drag it to the corner of the table, still it is in static equilibrium. Now, no, it falls down. Why does this happen? Because what happens, when the book is lying on the table, the weight of the book is acting in the downward direction, which is counterbalanced by the reaction force of the table below it. And when they both are equal, it is said to be in static equilibrium. Suppose if the table is like I shifted the book to the corner, then what happens? The reaction force reduces and the counterbalancing part is not there. So it falls down. So it is no longer in static equilibrium, right? Take another example of a beam balance. Now in case of a beam balance, there are two pans. The right hand side pan has the object to be weighed and the left hand side pan has the weight. When both of them counterbalance each other, that is the anti-clockwise, this thing tries to pull it this way. So anti-clockwise moment, when balances the clockwise moment, that is the resultant of the moments acting on this body, moment of forces. This is the anti-clockwise, this is the clockwise. When the resultant of the moment of forces acting on this particular beam balance is equal, or resultant of the two is 0, this is positive, this is positive, this is negative. So when positive and negative counterbalance each other, the resultant is 0. Okay, so I say it is in static equilibrium. Look at dynamic. Dynamic means anything in motion. Now I have shown this. This is a raindrop, children. It is falling on the ground. Now when a raindrop is falling down, the weight of the raindrop falls downwards. It is trying to pull the raindrop downwards. And there is an opposite force, that is the buoyant force of the air, and also the frictional force acting on the raindrop in the opposite direction to the weight. When these two forces, that is the buoyant force and force of friction, counterbalances the weight of the raindrop, then what happens? It is said to be in dynamic equilibrium. Okay, look at another example. I take a thread and I tie a stone at one end. You can also do it at home and you swirl it. You will see that the stone goes in a rotational motion and it shows a uniform circular motion. What keeps it going? What keeps it going, children? There is a tension force which is pulling it inwards. What tension force? The tension in the string tries to pull it inwards, and that acts as the centripetal force. Centri because it is pulling it towards the center. and there is a outward reaction force to the tension force which is trying to pull it outwards. And when the tension and the reaction force counterbalance each other, that is the point when the stone keeps on moving in uniform circular motion. Suppose if you cut the thread, what is going to happen? If you cut the thread, the stone will fly off, because in that case the tension force will no longer exist, because you have cut the string, the tension force will not exist and the stone will fly off. So all these examples, children, are your daily day-to-day life examples. You know, you look at this book lying on the table, you see the beam balance, you see the raindrop, you see the stone swirled in a circular manner. All these are examples from your day-to-day life which prove that equilibrium only takes place in two cases, children. Two things are needed for equilibrium. Number one, the resultant of all the forces. You can see here there are two forces. Then here there are 2 plus 1. So the resultant of all the forces, when the resultant of all the forces acting on the body is 0, the body is said to be in equilibrium. And the second thing for you to remember is the sum of moments of forces. Can you see over here? The sum of moment of forces means the sum of clockwise and anti-clockwise. When the algebraic sum of moments of all the forces acting about on a body is 0, then also the body is said to be in equilibrium. You know, like if you have this book, it has different, it can be divided along an axis into half and half. Okay, either this way or that way. Now, there are particles here, there are particles here. Some particles are trying to pull it anti-clockwise, some particles are trying to pull it clockwise. When the resultant of the clockwise and the anti-clockwise moments counterbalances, the body is said to be in equilibrium. Okay, children, I hope you have understood it. So, thank you so much to be patient listeners, and we'll discuss about it in our online class. Thank you.